Do you want to start a new garden, but you don't know where to start? You came to the right place, because in this video we'll talk about 5 easy steps you can take towards growing your own food in your new garden. So without further ado, let's jump into the main content. The first step that you need to take after you decide that you will start a garden is to begin the planning process. And this is done in 3 phases. In the first phase, you need to decide what you will grow. An easy solution to this step is to look at your common recipes that you are cooking in your household and list all the vegetables that are on them. And then, depending on how much you are eating a specific vegetable, decide how many plants you need to plant. And now that you have a number on what you want to plant, it's time to design your garden. This is done by first writing how much space each plant will need. And if you follow me, you'll know I'm a huge supporter of the square foot gardening method. It's simple and effective. So with this method, you can determine how much space you need for each plant that is planted. And to easily find those spacings, you can watch my video where I have a list of 72 different plant spacings. Link will be in the video description. So with the number of how many square foot you'll need to dedicate to your garden, you can start designing your new garden. You can make square beds, corner beds, long beds, or beds with any shape or size you want. The only advice I would give you here is to never go wider than 4 feet if you can reach from either side, or 2 feet if you can reach from only one side. And try to not get longer than 8 feet, otherwise you need to walk quite a bit around. Here you can play with your imagination, going from simple square raised beds to elaborate elegant gardens. But don't worry too much, because you can always change your design next year, if you find that you need to. And the last phase of planning your garden is to dedicate each square feet of your garden to a specific plant. You can do that on paper or in Excel or some other program. I usually start by pen and paper and then transfer it later on into an Excel spreadsheet. The second step when starting a new garden is to build it. This usually takes the most time and sweat, but the end result will be worth it, I promise. And don't worry, it can be done in 2 simple phases. So right now the place where someday your garden will be, it's probably a grass patch. But no worries, because the first phase you will need to convert it into a fertile ground. You can do this in 3 different ways, depending on how the final garden will look like, and how much money and work are you willing to spend on it. So if you're not planning to make some raised beds, the easiest way to do it is just to put some kind of cover on the top of the grass. This can be a plastic tarp, an old rag, or some cardboard. This will inhibit the growth of the weeds and they will decompose over time. Just remember that if you're putting a plastic tarp or a rag on it, it needs to be done at least 3 months before you will planting your garden, because you need to remove it. But if you're using cardboard, you don't have this problem. On the other hand, if you're building raised beds and want to save some money in the soil department, build your own soil by using an old Irish method and build some lazy beds. I have a video where I just done that, so you can go check it out after this one. Now that you have your weed problem sorted, you can start building your raised beds. You can build them with pellet wood, offcuts of logs, which are in my opinion the best choice, with bricks or some other material that you have at your disposal. My recommendation here would be not to worry too much how it looks. The first garden you'll build will probably be a temporary one. You will probably upgrade it into the near future, so it's pointless to use expensive materials or permanent structures. Some cheap lumber or pellet wood should do the trick for 1 or 2 years, when you'll probably want to upgrade your garden. The next step, now that you have your garden planned and built, is to prepare your soil for all the plants that will be growing in your garden. Remember that soil is the most critical component of your garden. If you do this part right, you'll have less work and less problems in the future. Soil is the foundation block of your garden. Without it, your plants will not grow properly. Somewhere I read that if you want to grow vegetables, you first need to know how to grow soil, and couldn't agree more with it. If you looked around with all the different techniques of gardening, square foot gardening, hugelkultur gardening, back to Eden gardening, and so on, they all talk about their soil. Yes, all have their own takes on it, but they all acknowledge the huge importance of soil in the garden, and all of them promote one component: compost. That's why I also recommend that at least 1/3 of the soil you're planting on is composed of some kind of compost. The other 2/3 can be your topsoil. You don't need to buy expensive raised bed soil, or potting soil, or some other soil. Compost will do the trick with all the nutrients your plant needs, and also will help with moisture retention and water drainage. So you don't need to use artificial fertilizers your first year. I didn't, and look how green and productive my garden was. Let's go to the fourth step: buying and planting your plants. The first year when you'll be building your garden, you probably won't have time, nor the knowledge or the facilities to start plants from seeds. So instead of starting your plants from seeds, buy some seedlings from your local nursery, or if you don't have one nearby, from some big bag stores. That way you will have already established plants that are ready for transplanting in your garden. And if you're doing this, you will also save some time, because you won't need to wait for the seeds to germinate and grow. This will save you some weeks in the limited growing time that you have. And when you're starting, every little help is welcomed. I know it's tempting to start your vegetables from seeds, and not trying to tell you not to. I just want to suggest you that if you will try to grow your vegetables from seeds, do it as a test, as a learning step. That way you will get familiar with the process and will learn by the mistakes you will do, and will not affect your growing season, because your main plants will be planted with the seedlings you bought. This test is also good because at the end you will want to start your vegetables from seeds. Not because it's better, but because you'll probably want to try some other varieties that are usually not sold in the nurseries. And this can only be done if you do it yourself. The fifth step when starting your first vegetable garden is to take care of your plants and nurse them until they produce some splendid vegetables. This means also to protect them from all sorts of pests. One of the common pests in the garden are snails. Fortunately, there is an easy solution for them: beer. Yes, beer. You can make some simple beer traps that will attract and kill the majority of snails in your garden. And the best part of this trap is that I found it's more effective than slug pellets. Another part that the majority of you will probably want to optimize is watering. You probably don't want to be in your garden every single day watering your plants, right? So what can you do here? There are two but effective solutions, but only one is cheap, easy to do, and will kill not 2, not 3, but 5 birds with one stone: mulching. And if you want to learn more about what those things are, you can click the video that popped on the screen right now. These are the 5 steps you can take to start your garden. If you would like to see me building my garden and hear more tips on the topic, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you liked the video, please press that like button. Happy gardening!